Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of April 12. Please stand for the pledge.
That's right. We gotta do this thing.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Councilman Candia.
Dear Heavenly Father, watch over us tonight while we make the correct decisions for the city of Newman and all those people that are here tonight. And God bless all of our troops across the way fighting for freedom. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis?
Present.
Hutchins?
Present.
Candia?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina?
Present.
Mayor Kagan?
Present. Thank you. Item 5, declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll go to item 6, ceremonial matters. A is proclamation library week. And I believe we have someone here from the library. Please come forward. And I have stuff here. Welcome. All right, we have just a short proclamation, and I'll read it. Proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Newman. Whereas the library's use is up nationwide among all types of library users, continuing a decade-long trend. And whereas a literate workforce is essential to the economic health of our community. And whereas reading is a basic key to achieving personal success in school, business, and life. And whereas librarians are actively building partnerships in the community and making special efforts to reach out to parents, children, and low literate adults. And whereas libraries ensure equal access to knowledge, information, and offer valuable reading resources and services to the public. And whereas librarians and libraries are actively involved in providing equitable access to the internet and other computer technologies. And whereas libraries provide free resources such as employment searches, online interview preparation, resume assistance, and tutoring support of all which are particularly important during difficult economic times. Whereas libraries offer preschool, story times, and summer reading programs to encourage children to begin a habit of reading that will serve to benefit their personal and professional lives. Now therefore, I, Kate Mayor, City of Newman, do hereby proclaim April 10 through 16, 2011 as National Library Week in the City of Newman, and urge everyone to visit libraries to take advantage of the wonderful resources they provide. Here's a proclamation for you. If you'd like to say a few words, please do.
Okay. I'd just like to say thank you to the City Council and to the community for the support that they provide the library. I'm not going to take much of your time. I do have flyers back on the back table with some of the programs that are going on at the library. We currently have a teen program and several different children's programs that go on at the library monthly. We also have kind of an interesting program that's going on for this month. During the summer, the entirety of Stanislaus County is going to be doing a program called Stanislaus Reads, where we're trying to get as many people as possible to read an appropriate book based on California agriculture. And there will be programs and book discussions, a booth at the fair, all of that going on this summer. However, for this month, we do have an art contest going on for school-age children. There will be 3 different age brackets. And the theme of the art can be in any medium, but it does have to be agricultural related. And they can turn those entries into the library before the 30th of April. They can win some pretty interesting prizes. I believe the grand prize is an iPad. So that could make some child's day. So if you know of anyone in those age brackets that would be interested in doing some art and maybe winning a prize, just send them our way. We'll certainly give them the information, and the information about that is on the back table as well. So thank you once again for the proclamation and for your support.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go to item B, which is the community capacity building presentation for the Center of Human Services. And I believe we have Laura here and Ruben. Step forward, please.
I'd like to introduce Ruben Imperial from Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. He'll actually do the presentation on community capacity building because he does it much better than I can do it.
Because I do it probably almost every day. So, well, first of all, thank you for having us here today. And I really appreciate being out here in Newman. I'm here to talk about the Community Capacity Building Initiative, which is an initiative, as Laura mentioned, with the Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. We're the county's mental health treatment provider, our mental health services and alcohol and drug services treatment provider. So we provide services anywhere from 9 to 10,000 people a year that have some type of mental illness or alcohol and drug substance abuse issues in their lives. And as well, we do provide prevention services. And I manage what's called the Prevention and Early Intervention Division. There's many programs in that division. And also within that division, there's an initiative called the Community Capacity Building Initiative. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, it's a new initiative. And, well, hold on real quick. Just what's my time here? Just so I know not to go. Is it, it's 7:10 right now. Do I have to like 7:20, 7:15?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. So, community
You're gonna
capacity.
ruin my record, but go ahead.
So, I'll give you the 10-minute presentation, the 10-minute version. The Community Capacity Building Initiative is a response within the County Mental Health Department to what we've seen as a growing need in the areas of mental health and alcohol and substance abuse issues within our community, while at the same time we are seeing a constriction or a decrease in resources to provide the traditional mental health and alcohol and drug treatment services. So as with many large government or public agencies, I'm sure that you probably experienced the same things at times, is there's a constriction of our budget, and there is less and less, but at the same time we're seeing more and more need. And the idea around the Community Capacity Building Initiative is that although that we see an increase in need, and over the last 2 or 3 years, and as we've seen this decrease in our budgets and our resources and our ability to serve people, just to give you an idea, in 2005, 2004, we served around 14,000 people. And these are folks with a serious mental illness. This is not any mild depressions or mental health issues related to, for instance, the economy or trauma. These are people that have a serious mental illness. We saw 14,000 people in 2005. This year we'll see less than 9,000 people. So from 2005 until today, we've seen a decrease in our ability to provide services to around 5,000 people within our community, although they need it and would qualify and would benefit from it. They are no longer receiving mental health services. And it's right about this time where we start to talk about, well, why did you come all the way to Newman to tell me that? Okay, we're serving less people. What's the news around that? Well, even in 2005, when we served these 15,000 people, what they call the prevalence rate, which is a statistical guess of how many people actually needed service in this county, was right around 35,000 people. So in 2005, when we served 15,000 people, there was 35,000 people in this county that, although could benefit from mental health services because of the constriction of the system at that time, or even the capacity of the system at that time, even when we had more funding, we could still not provide all the services that were needed within our community. There were still 20-odd thousand people out there in our community still not getting services, even when we had more money. So that's a reality that we've been dealing with. That's an area where we've been focusing on in terms of, in our department or in our lingo, we call it, that's the unmet need within our community. These are people that could benefit, that have some type of serious mental illness and could benefit from mental health treatment services, but because of the way the system's set up and because of the limited resources, and it's just the reality of the way it is, we've not been able to meet all that need. And we've tried many ways, and within our organization, we have done our best to, and have been looked upon throughout the state in terms of how we've been able to manage the resources we have and serve the maximum amount of people that we've been able to do. And we've done pretty good with that, and we take pride in that ability to serve as many people as we can with the resource we have. And so I share all of this to say this, that even when we had all the resources, there was still not the capacity within the organization to serve all the mental health needs. It's even got worse now. There's still folks that could benefit. And as disheartening as that message is, we've come to understand it in terms of having many conversations with our communities and folks throughout Newman, Patterson, Wesley, Grayson, and throughout the county. And we began to work upon this idea and this hypothesis around community capacity building. The fact that there is these 20,000 people out there that although that could benefit from these services, the fact is that we don't have 25,000 people beating down our door at the mental health clinics. We don't have that many people knocking on our clinic doors or calling our 1-800 numbers to get access to services. So we began to ask, well, maybe as bad as the situation is, maybe there is a silver lining. Maybe there is another way in which folks are, although they need services, are finding this support in their community or finding support in other ways. So we asked this question about 2 or 3 years ago. We surveyed over 5,000 people within our county. And we asked them, in the last 30 days, has there been a period in your life where the way you felt has impacted the way, your daily agenda for a period of 5 or more days? So it's a question about has there been a period in the last 30 days where you felt so sad or depressed or so emotionally distraught that your ability to function normally, your job or your family life or whatever, has been impacted for a period of 5 or more days? Very light question around the onset of depression. So of the 5,000 people we surveyed, there was around 30% that said that's been me. I've had those types of experiences. And we asked them, well, in these situations where you felt like this, where did you go get help? And 10% of those 30% that said yes said, well, I went to a professional. I went to the mental health system. I went to a mental health professional. The 90% that said, well, then we asked the other folks, well, where did you go? Where'd you go if you didn't go to a mental health professional? They said, well, we went to 3 areas, and it was equally distributed across. It says, well, we found support in these 3 ways. We found support through our faith, through our family, and through our friends. And all that I just said is to help us communicate the idea that within our communities, although there is this very high level of need for folks around mental health services or mental health support or alcohol and drug treatment as well, and the fact that the system is constricting and there's less and less resource, we've come to understand that within our community, although people could benefit from it and need it, that they are finding ways of support in other ways. And we've begun to ask folks how they do that. And many have said, as I just shared with you, it's around faith, it's around our family, and it's around our friends. So thus the community capacity building project is about this. Can we begin to work within communities to understand how the faith, how the family, and how the friends, and how communities come together to support those folks within their community in situations where, although they need mental health treatment or could benefit from those types of things, find support in their community. However imperfect it may be or perfect it may be, could we begin to find ways to have these conversations in local communities in the city of Newman and talk about how when people go through difficult times here, or when folks faces challenges, whether it's mental health, substance abuse, or in any ways, how do they find support in their community? And could we, as a government agency, build partnerships with community leaders and community residents in ways that help them strengthen their capacity to continue to do what they've been doing? And could we be of support in not just in the ways we've been in our community in the past 25 years, which all we've done is pretty much is provided discrete sets of mental health services? Could we build partnerships now with our communities and help them or come alongside them if this is an interest of theirs to say, in Newman, these are the ways that we've come to understand and support each other in many different ways. And in the areas of emotional health and well-being, is there ways that we can create partnerships together so that we can strengthen that capacity, continue to do it, and in some ways increase and do it better. So this is not about the department coming to Newman and saying we no longer provide mental health services for your community. We will always, and we see ourselves as the mental health services provider, and we will continue to provide treatment in the most cost-effective ways that we can. This is not about you doing for us what we no longer can do. This is about trying to understand already the ways in which the residents of Newman are already supporting each other in the areas of emotional health and well-being, whether it's their faith, their family, or their friends. And could we find ways to form partnerships and understand how we can strengthen that work that's already there? I want to say one more thing around the word community and around the word capacity building. With the reality of this unmet need out there, with the reality that we begin to understand that there are ways in which communities are finding this support, and could we find ways to build partnerships and relationships in which we can strengthen that community support, we use the word community capacity very strategically, very specifically. And in your handout there, you'll see that the word community, as we define it, is a group of people who know each other well enough that they can act together and support each other. This is different than from what I think what in many ways the word community is used. Often we use the term the community of the Latino community or the African American community. I'm Latino. My name is Ruben Imperial. And the other day, my car broke down in San Francisco with my family and my sister who was visiting from out of town. And when my car broke down, I didn't look in the San Francisco phone book for the first Latino surname or the Hernandez or the Perez or the Garcia. I called my community, a group of people that I know well enough that at midnight in San Francisco, if I needed someone to come from Modesto to pick me up, they'd come do it for me. That's my community. That's the way that we're using community in terms of this project. Often we use these terms, these words, community, to describe, abstract or broad geographic locations, the community in Newman. But if we use this definition of community in Newman, we could understand that there's not necessarily a community of Newman, that there's many communities in Newman. There's many networks of relationships of people that have come together in many ways to support each other. And there's many of these communities in Newman. And then in capacity building, we use a very strategic term called strengthening the ability of communities to act on their own behalf to promote the well-being of their members. So the idea is that we would begin work within communities at an extent. This is an invitation to the members and the residents and the leaders of Newman, and it's only at their request that this work would be done, to begin to explore ways in which we can strengthen the capacity of the communities in the city of Newman to find ways to act on their own behalf in the areas of emotional health and well-being. The following two paragraphs in the graphic there actually describes a planning process around results. Let me take a step back here. I'm going to go ahead and pause here. The support that the department, or the invitation the department is extending to the community of Newman and its leaders and its residents, would they be interested in a process where, as communities in the city of Newman, they'd come together and talk about this project in terms of how they can act in the city of Newman to support each other in the areas of emotional health and well-being. And the department has some resource to help residents within the city go through that process or through that type of planning process, and there's support in many ways to do that. There's staffing, there's folks within our organization that we've helped that we've hired on in terms of helping to facilitate these conversations, as well as to help with the planning and so on and so forth. I'll close with this. The graphic that you see there, I'll go relatively quickly through it, and it's a planning process that's focused on the results communities are committed to achieve in the areas of emotional health and well-being. That's the first conversation that we have in these types of planning processes. It's different from the needs conversation. It's not all the things that are wrong with our community. It's not all the things that we don't like about or that are lacking. It's what are the strengths. It's what are the ways that things are working well. It's the ways and the assets that we have. It's the ways that people are already supporting each other. So it's around the results that communities are committed to achieve, not the department, not some outside agency, but residents and leaders that care, that want to have this conversation and want to work with each other to hold themselves accountable for these types of results in the areas of emotional health and well-being. The second conversation we have is, if these are the results we want, then how will we know that we're making progress towards that? And how will we know in Newman, not 5 years down the road when the project's done, but how will we know 2 or 3 months at a time? Often with these large community planning processes or grants, we work on these things And at some point, 5 years down the road, once the grant's done and the report's done and the analysis is done, then we hear about the results. This is different. Once we know about the indicators, then we start talking about strategies. What could we do here? And it's not about bringing in programs or outside people. It's about what are the existing resources and all efforts already underway. What are some of the no-cost, low-cost things that we can do in these areas? We do have some time-limited well-being grants that can help the communities jumpstart this process and help to support the planning process and help the process move forward. And then as well as our BHRS programs, our department's programs and services, our intention is that as we're providing these high-level mental health services that we would be of support in this in this community in that way. But understanding all along that when communities start talking about the results that they're committed to achieve around emotional health and well-being, that it's not going to be just because we have a mental health program or we have specific programs in our communities. Programs are great, but often serve a very specific purpose and often serve a very specific population. If we want to see community-wide results and if we want to see changes in these areas, it's going to take action beyond a particular program, that there'll be multiple actions across communities that are needed to actually get to meaningful results in our community. So I'll close with that. That's the Community Capacity Building Project. If it's at least piqued your interest, we have a meeting. You want to share that really quick? We have a meeting, I believe, on Thursday with a group of school leaders, and as well with some folks, and Laura will be passing that information out as well. So any particular questions, comments?
Any questions, or Ruben, or comments?
No, I think, Ruben, I like what you have to say tonight. I really think that there's something there, and I think this is getting the community involved. I think we stand a better chance in small cities like Newman, where I think people do care more, and they know their neighbors a lot more so than larger cities where there's not that attachment.
Truthfully, I can't wait for a smaller community to actually take one of these projects on, because I think it's actually places where we can actually see our progress. Especially in communities where the population level is not as large as maybe a larger city, and there's ways that we can actually track the effect of our work. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So for those of you who are interested in Ruben's presentation, that meeting is Thursday, April 21st from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the McConnell Education Center on Patchett Drive, 1388 Patchett. Okay, we'll go to item 7, items from the public, non-agenda item. I think we have a couple of people.
Mayor, I apologize if I was supposed to file a card or something. It's Chris Tyler from State Senator Anthony Canella's office. Last time I was here, I promised you I'd come back on a regular basis and kind of try to keep you updated on the things going on in Sacramento. Obviously, the budget is on everybody's mind. And Senator Canella regrets that the budget talks have at this point broken down. But just recapping, the size of the budget deficit, roughly $28 billion. The governor had proposed a half cuts, half revenue budget. The cuts have now largely been made, at least that first half. There were roughly $14 billion in cuts. It's really net about 11 because there were some fund shifts that kind of backfilled those cuts. And so now they're dealing with the other half of the anticipated, shortfall. And the GOP 5, as they're commonly referred to, Senator Canella being one, had proposed to accept the governor's revenue extensions and put them on the ballot, but also wanted to see a number of other more reform items on the ballot. And once again, those consisted of dealing with the pension issue at the state, so pension reform, a spending cap, that's another key component. They wanted to prohibit the cyclical peaks and valleys associated with our state spending, some regulatory reform items, and some CEQA reform items. That's what the GOP 5 were advocating, accompanying these other measures and be tied to them on the ballot. They got very, very close with the governor, and unfortunately at the last minute a couple outside factors came into play, and the governor pulled out of those discussions. It's our hope that as the May revised numbers come in, so the tax receipts come in May, that the picture doesn't look as bleak, and that helps catalyze a new discussion between those same legislators and the governor. So stay tuned. I was sharing with the city manager, and I'm sure you all know, that at this point, the governor has not been able to act on his desire to eliminate redevelopment agencies, and I applaud the League of California Cities for their outreach efforts, because not only has he not secured the Republican votes, our understanding is that some on the other side of the aisle have also not supported eliminating redevelopment agencies. There's been dialogue, and I believe it's outside the legislature, it may be even being led by the league, to come up with a compromise on redevelopment, where redevelopment actually loans money to schools in return for an extension of their life. So all these things are ongoing. Appreciate you all understanding and kind of hanging in there with us, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them, but I'll certainly keep you informed.
Any questions, Chris? Oh, we know Anthony is fighting the battle, and it's long from being over, I'm sure. So
Yeah, thank you.
thanks.
man.
Any other members of the public? Seeing none, we'll move to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions set by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of the March 22, 2011 regular meeting. D is adopt resolution number 2011 next to number resolution rejecting the claim of Alex Saavedra. E is adopt resolution number 2011 next to number approving a three-year lease agreement with Newman Co-op Nursery School and authorizing the city manager to execute said lease for property located at 1147 R Street. F is adopt resolution number 2011 next to number approving the local transportation claim fund claim for fiscal year 2010-2011 claim number 2 and authorizing the city manager to execute the claim on behalf of the city of Newman. And G is authorized the city manager to enter a side letter agreement for the reallocation of home funds. Council direction?
I move that we approve the consent calendar as read.
I'd like to pull 2 items from the consent calendar, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hutchins?
I'd like to pull letter E and letter G, please.
To be acted on separately.
be acted
Item
on separately.
E and item G will be pulled from the consent calendar to be acted on separate. Motion has been made on items A, B, C, D, F. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second to approve A, B, C, D, F. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's act on item E's, adopt resolution number 2011, next to number approving the 3-year lease agreement with the Newman Cooperative Nursery School. Councilman Hutchins?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. City Manager Holland was good enough to provide some numbers. As I was looking at it, the question that I had was a $3,000 lease, and we're providing a lot of services from the city, and how much it was costing us in excess of the lease agreement, which apparently, based on the figures we have, is a little over $500 a year. Is that correct, Mr. Holland?
Yeah, based on some of that stuff, obviously, is estimates based upon life expectancy of replacement water heaters and those types of things, but yes.
Do we have any idea if any of those are coming up fairly soon, or is it within this lease period, or?
I don't recall. Maybe the painting of the building, it's been probably about 8 years. We're probably going to need to look at that piece right there. In the past, the co-op nursery has been doing the repainting for us.
We just provide the paint, and
they've been touching that up on their own. Yes.
That was my major concern, was just in today's economic outlook, how much it was costing us over and above, since we do have quite a few things that we're going to be looking at budget for over the next few months. Again, that was my question on E.
And are you satisfied with?
I'm satisfied with, yeah.
Okay. So let's take action on item E. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve item E.
Okay. I'll go with Roberta. Is there a second?
Aye.
Second. Motion and a second to approve item E. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's deal with item G. Authorize city manager to enter side letter agreement for the reallocation of home funds.
I guess it's my turn again.
You do it so well.
I just had a couple of questions. Anytime as a city, I think we're looked at as a council, and basically we're breaking the bank on our home funds. Setting the fact that, we don't have anything on the hook or in line right now, but that's not to say we won't have. And just based on reading from what Oakdale had requested, they have an unexpected shortage of funds. Well, that always worries me when it's an unexpected shortage of funds and when we're giving away everything that we have with no recourse other than hopefully they will pay it back if they have it.
I think, if I may, Councilman, make a point of clarification. We have a first-time homebuyers program, and there will remain $80,000+ in our home fund to use towards first-time homebuyers program. So and we've reserved that. So there's actually money in the bank. This just so that it doesn't have an effect on our current program. We think $80,000 is enough to get us through October when we get our next allocation. So when we say break the bank, what I'm saying is we've set aside $80,000 for a first-time homebuyers program, and we have $150,000 that's unallocated at this time. What we as staff and countywide, what we've been really trying to do is work cooperatively. And when other cities, especially the smaller cities, have projects and they can't fund it, we try to go out and help each other out. And at this point in time, home funds are very restrictive on what types of usage you can use them for, and it's mostly affordable housing. Home funds are being used for the apartment complex that's now being under construction in our community, and we've used a lot of home funds for that. And and first-time homebuyers programs are really the ones that we do. Can't you really use it like CDBG, where we're doing infrastructure projects and sidewalks and those types of things? That's not what home fund supports. So basically, during our conversation and what you're seeing in staff's recommendation is we go ahead and give our $150,000 of unallocated money to Oakdale with the agreement that if we need it in the next 5 years, they give it back to us. If we don't need it in the next 5 years, at least it's still in the county and it's still being used. We're not probably going to need it because in the next 5 years we'll be accumulating more funds. So therefore, if we don't use it in the 5 years, the reality is we probably won't need it. The other bottom line is most cities will reciprocate. If 7 years from now we really needed it, we really think that the other cities would come to us and help us with any unallocated funds that they have at that time. So that's kind of the background behind staff's recommendation on this, is to go ahead and give them our unallocated $150,000. Again, we would still have $80,000 to be used for our first-time homebuyers program for any member of our community that would like to qualify for that program, and then we'll get a reallocation in October of this year that'll help generate our reserves back up.
Well, I guess that's one of my questions is, that seems to me to be a very large assumption that we are going to get reallocated in October based on the current state budget.
That's correct. We may not. And home is home federal. Home is federal funding.
We're in the consortium. We won't get an allocation.
So unless the federal government completely wipes out CDBG program, we will get our allocation because we're part of consortium, so we're an entitlement community. So therefore, we get an automatic allocation.
The feds are worse than the state.
Michael, worst case scenario, let's say 3 years down the road, we see a need, we need that money. And we call Oakdale and say, hey, we need that money back. And they say, oh, sorry, we don't have it. Do we have any teeth?
I'm gonna have to put that on. That's it's a side letter agreement with them, and it's mostly a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, I understand.
So
I understand. And idea in a lot of our meetings that I go to, there's a large talk of cooperation, and I totally support that. If we can help each other out, if we have projects, and in most cases, if there's not enough money to fund those projects, we can depend on our neighboring cities maybe to help us out. Vice versa, it goes both ways. And I understand completely what Councilman Hutchins is saying, and the reassurance that under the federal CDBG that we'll get the reallocation. I would like to think that our neighbors to the east would do the same for us if we were in the same situation, and if we have it and we're not going to use it, and we have $80,000 left, I would have no problem at all loaning them what funds we have. I mean, if we can put it to work, I say let's put it to work, and with the hopes, and it is a gentleman's agreement, and we have a very good relationship with the City of Oakdale through our city managers, and so.
And Mayor, there are also other members of the consortium that we could also, if we ever got ourselves in a bind, and Oakdale's doing the same thing right now. They're not just looking to Newman. They're asking our other partners, if you have any unallocated, please help us get this project going, and that's what they're saying. So we would do the same. We would open it up to all of our consortium members and partners and ask them to please contribute in the particular project. So, I don't honestly. With this major housing project that's going in, it's going to take it's going to be a few years before we probably are ready to do another one, just through the capacity of the number of units that's being created there in Valley Manor, and there's quite a bit of capacity that's being generated now in terms of affordable housing. So it'll probably be a while before we have another big housing project come in to that size.
Well, and I agree with the mayor. If we can, that's fine, but the way I read the staff report, we didn't have anything left, and that's where I was.
Right. And we won't have any unallocated funds. We have funds, but they've been allocated to first-time home buyers. Basically, our reserve is dry. But there's still money in your wallet. There's money in your wallet for first-time home buyers, but again, unallocated funds would then be given to Oakdale.
Do we have any idea how much Oakdale needs to complete this project?
Yeah, it's about $600,000.
Any other questions or comments? Bring it back, council, for direction to act on item G. Are you satisfied with that, Councilman Hudson?
With the explanation, yeah.
Okay.
I so move that we authorize city manager to enter a side letter agreement for the reallocation of home funds.
Second. The motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thanks for the explanation, Michael. And I think it's good that we work with our partners, and hopefully we get to that point. It's going to be reciprocated. So, public hearing. We'll go to item A. Is adopt resolution 2011 next to number resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's that time of year again when the weeds are growing and we start sending out letters for people to clean up their properties. Tonight before you, we only have one property. We sent out several notices, only one property that didn't abate their property, and we're going to need to do it for them. As you can see, it's not a weed abatement, it's more of trash, and this has been like this for a good 5-6 months, and they've done nothing to clean it up. We've sent letters to the homeowner and to the resident, and nothing has been done to this point as of yesterday. So I bring this residence before you, which is 2228 Mesa Verde Drive, for abatement. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Is that the homeowner in the one picture that we have?
That is a resident of the house, not the homeowner, but a resident.
I thought that was interesting. Any questions of the chief before we open up the public hearing? Okay, with that, the public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wish to address the council? See, now we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the council for direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
I second that motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Swift Justice. 10, regular business. Report on funding request for the Center of Human Services. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. We received this, the mayor actually went to a meeting not too long ago and came across Miss Laura Elkington, who runs the West Side Family Resource Center. And they're sponsoring a Swing for the Kids golf contest, or charity golf tournament, excuse me. And with that, the Center for Human Services would like to come and make a funding request for the council. So I believe Laura's here and another member of CHS as well.
Step on up, Laura. And I attended a meeting a couple weeks ago in Patterson where I met with Laura. And forgive me, I forget the other lady's name, Laura? Monica. And also the mayor of Patterson was there, so they made a presentation. And so I invited Laura to come before the council, make her presentation with no promises.
Thank you, Mayor Caton. What I've passed around to each of you is just a little information about some of the services that we provide right here in Newman. Center for Human Services is a nonprofit organization. They've been around for 40 years. They have the admin offices are located in Modesto, and then they have throughout the county different programs. They have Family Resource Center here in Newman, Family Resource Center in Patterson, Family Resource Center in Oakdale. They also have a series partnership for healthy children, and Hutton House, which is a runaway youth shelter, Pathways, which is transitional living. But I'm here more to talk to you about Newman and what we do right here in Newman. Here in Newman, we have a few programs. We're funded through grants, and our funding here in Newman is $300,000 that we have currently through grants, and that we're providing programming through. So some of the programs we provide for you. We do a Healthy Birth Outcomes program, which is a program that helps parents that are pregnant how to have a healthy pregnancy, but it also helps them learn how to parent that child when that child's born, how to eat healthy, and make wise decisions for themselves. We have a functioning family class. That's a parenting group that meets once a week. We have parents and teens together. They meet once a week also. It's a communications class. Helps parents learn to communicate better with their teenagers, and for their teenagers to communicate better with their parents, because it's a two-way street. And sometimes our teens think it's a one-way street, so that helps them out a little bit. The CalFresh program is new for out here. We provide, anybody in the community can come in the office, and we provide them with assistance applying for food stamps, Medi-Cal, cash aid. They don't have to travel all the way to Modesto to make those applications. We can also help them to apply for WIC, so that helps them out too. Locally, one of the things that we started doing, this was our first year in helping members of the community apply for water bill assistance. It's tough times right now. People are losing their jobs, and they don't plan to be in these predicaments, but they don't have the money to pay their water bill. And so we've developed a program with funding through CDBG, grant funding through CDBG, to provide some assistance for those families here on the west side in Newman and in Patterson. This year being our first year, we didn't receive a lot of funding for that program. However, next year we will be receiving a considerable amount of funding for that program and be able to help families even more out here. We help them with PG&E assistance if they're behind on their PG&E bill and they've been an emergency in the family. Maybe somebody's passed away and they had to have funeral expenses, something that they didn't plan on having to be able to do. We can help them out in paying their PG&E bill. We also have a food pantry right here in Newman. We help out with the Salvation Army at Christmas time, which I know many of you help out with too, delivering food baskets to families and gifts. But year-round, we're the food pantry in Newman. We have a lot of food, and we help the families out there too. One of the questions that the mayor asked me was, what do we do for the children in the community? So let me tell you a little bit about what we do for the youth and the children in our community. Once a week, we hold a class. We call it Kinderband, and it's for children 3 to 5. And we teach them school readiness skills, teach them their ABCs, we teach them to color, but we also teach them to disconnect from their mommies or their daddies so that they're ready to go to kindergarten when kindergarten starts. Through that program, we do a reading program, encouraging parents to sit down and read with their children. It's really important to start at an early age, so we encourage them to start reading with them from the day that they're born. So in that program, if they sit down with their child and read to them 5 days a week, 5 times during the week, we'll give them a free book at the end of the week. They just bring us in a little slip of paper and they get a free book for doing all that reading. The flyer that was passed around earlier out of community capacity building is something else that we're working on to develop a youth program here in Newman. A lot of community members have come to me and said, what are we doing with our youth? How can we help our youth out in this community? What activities can we plan? So this is going to be the first conversation of what can we do to help our youth out in this community. I also oversee the Patterson Family Resource Center. And one of the things they're doing down there is they have a group called the Youth Development Committee and a YAC. So the YAC is for the teenagers, and the Youth Development Committee is the various adults in the community. It's faith-based. Members from BHRS are on it, partners and community leaders. Their chief of police is on it. They have a city council member on it. And we get together and we talk about what can we do to help the youth in this community to have activities. Because we're so far from Modesto that, it's not easy for them to go up there. And I wouldn't let my children travel on the bus to go to Modesto. So it's a conversation, so I hope some of you can come out to that. So what I came here for, though, is to ask for a donation of $2,500 for the West Side Swing for Kids. And what the West Side Swing for Kids golf tournament is, it's the Center for Human Services' first fundraising event out here on the West Side. All funding that is raised through this tournament will be kept here on the West Side to use for programs, youth programs, different services for families, different assistance for families and such. In the past, they do a lot of charity, they do a lot of fundraising, but it's based in Modesto, and when they're doing it in Modesto, we've noticed that a lot of people from the West Side don't come up there. They don't come to those events and such. So this is a first event of what we hope will be an annual event every year to raise funding for the West Side Family Resource Centers and community. So that's the quick one.
Any questions of Laura? And I told her it's probably going to be a tough sell, but she's more than welcome to come and make her pitch, and council may have some questions. First thing I told her was, obviously, it's difficult economic times, and it's not a budget item, so it would more likely have to be a budget reallocation and/or somewhere it has to be found. The Patterson Council meets on the 19th, so I told Mayor Molina that pressure could be on him if our council approves it. I didn't know that it would or not. And he as well didn't know if his council would approve it, but he was going to take it to their council, or Laura or somebody's going to go talk to their council on the 19th.
Yes, I'll be presenting to them on the 19th too.
So, with that, it's open for discussion, whatever council desires are.
Well, Michael, I hate to put you on the spot, but do we have funds for this sort of thing?
It's an unbudgeted item.
Sitting up here as the council members, a lot of times we don't know what's in the budget, that there is funds that are available. And so we have to lean on you, Michael, and lean on the staff to
Currently, Councilman Martina, it's an unbudgeted item. We've done a little bit of research. You have about $1,100 in community promotions, but we're also later on tonight going to talk about the budget for the grand opening event at the plaza.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that
we can't have it both ways.
Any other questions or comments? Well, even though I know it's a very, very worthy cause, and the Center for Human Resource Services is a fantastic organization. I toured their teen center down in Patterson, and it's nice. And I guess probably the upside of what Patterson has, compared to what Newman, we also have a very successful recreation program here. We have the teen thing, and so they haven't been able to, for lack of better terms, break ice into our community in terms of the teen center and the things that they do down there, because we have a successful program here, so to speak. So, and I simply said, you know, what really tangible things, you know, can we put our hands on that the services do? And, you know, the food pantry and a lot of other things they do are great, and those are things that they participate in. So, and those are services that are being provided, you know, to our community. But again, just unless somebody can go in the back of the city hall and pick some money off a tree, I don't know where it would come from. So it's up to this council to decide if they want to go forward with anything, and keeping in mind, and I also shared with them that we had our grand opening coming up with the plaza that we have to allocate some money for, and it certainly didn't fall under any RDA. We don't have any RDA money left, so.
Yeah, I don't think that would qualify.
I don't think we tried.
We try to use every dollar we could. Unfortunately, I don't think this would. So, if the council so chooses to move forward, what we would do is just pull this out of your cash reserve for your general fund.
I move that we not approve this $2,500 at this time.
There's a motion by Council Member Davis. Is there a second? What was there? Just an action item? It is. Anybody else?
Well, my question is, we just took $30,000 a few weeks ago, correct? And that came out of.
The council reaffirmed a pledge for a radio station that it was originally done in 07 or 08 for a radio station.
But that also came out of reserve funds, correct?
That came out of general fund reserves.
General fund reserves, yeah. Yep. Well, Laura, I think, personally, I would like to be able to say I support and would like to be able to do it. But I don't know that I could, in good conscience, support it. Not, given the fact that we have some other important items coming up. So, do I sense from the consensus of the council is we cannot participate? It's not that we don't want to, but
that would be my consensus. That at this point,
I just think that's not possible at this time.
And so
now I don't know if we have to make a motion on that.
No, the attorney says we don't. So I think the consensus is, Laura, that we don't feel that we can allocate $2,500.
Well, come join us at least for golf if you guys would like.
So wish Mayor Mullane luck. You know.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All righty, we'll go to B. Second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2011, next number, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newman approving the First Amendment to Sherman Ranch Development Agreement and authorizing staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this has been the long drawn-out process. Originally, we took some action in December to reach a settlement agreement with SEM Hearthstone LLC. As part of that settlement agreement, we agreed to do certain items. One of those items in which is the approval of the First Amendment to the development agreement. The changes that we're looking at as part of this development agreement would be just to extend the development agreement for an additional 3 years. We would set up a fee offset program for buyers who qualify under low and moderate income levels. The city agrees to extend the validity of building permits submitted prior to December 31st, 2010 for a period of 2 years. And the city agrees to extend the reimbursement agreement for an additional 3 years. Those were the major terms of the agreement. So we did have a public hearing in a first reading in January. We were going to keep moving forward, that was a first reading. Planning Commission was in January, first reading was in March. We finally got HUD approval, because these are federal funds, home funds. And so moving forward with that, we're recommending that you go ahead and conduct a second reading and adopt the ordinance. approving the First Amendment to the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement.
Any questions of Michael?
Michael, have we heard anything on if this is approved, on how soon they actually wish to get started in doing some of this?
They're actively looking for buyers right now. So, really, what will occur should this second reading adoption go forward? There's a 30-day waiting period. It has to be published, and you have 30 days, as you know. And then they have 10 days from that period to drop the lawsuit. In the meantime, they're probably, I would bet dollars that they're probably still actively looking for people who qualify under these programs. Again, these funds are only expended if they find qualified buyers.
Okay.
If they don't find qualified buyers and that time period expires, that money reverts back to the city into our accounts.
With that explanation, council direction.
I'd make a motion, second reading, adoption of ordinance number 2011, next number, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newman approving First Amendment to the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement and authorizing staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance.
I second that motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C is adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman approving the First Amendment to the substitute reimbursement and settlement agreement between the City of Newman and SCM Hearthstone LLC.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another continuation item, a cleanup, if you will. Again, per section 6 of the reimbursement agreement of the settlement agreement, we've agreed to extend the life of that reimbursement agreement for an additional 3 years. An affirmative vote on this resolution, again, will extend the substitute reimbursement settlement agreement for an additional 3 years, and that would be through a First Amendment to the substitute reimbursement settlement agreement.
And with all that said, council direction. Or questions or comments?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman approving the First Amendment to the substitute reimbursement and settlement agreement between the City of Newman and the Hearthstone LLC.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to item D is adopt resolution, oh, wait a minute, yes, yeah. Adopt resolution number 2011 authorizing city manager to prepare and execute a home regulatory agreement with SCM Homes of California for the construction of up to 12 single-family units in the existing Sherman Ranch subdivision.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you know, the city has been researching new ways to create affordable housing within the community. This led to the creation of the Sherman Ranch Affordable Housing Project in partnership with SCM Homes of California. They also partner with Florsheim Homes. This is all within the Sherman Ranch area. On February 8th, the council approved the project's environmental assessment and finding of no significant impact. Staff received HUD environmental approval for said project on March 29th. Upon the environmental certification, home regulations require that the city enter into a regulatory agreement with the developer in order to officially commit the home funds, which we just mentioned at the prior items. In order to commit the desired $125,000 towards the project, staff recommends that the council adopt resolution 2011 next to number, authorizing the city manager to prepare and execute a home regulatory agreement with SCM Homes of California for the Sherman Ranch Affordable Housing Project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Stephanie or comments? Council direction?
I so move that we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, authorizing the city manager to prepare and execute a home regulatory agreement with SCM Homes of California for the construction up to 12 single-family units in the existing Sherman Ranch subdivision.
Second that motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Item E has been pulled from tonight's agenda. We'll go to item F. Adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, resolution awarding bid for a wireless mesh system.
Thank you, Mayor. Our technology expert, Mike Meyer, can do this.
Technology expert.
Start the presentation.
Use that term loosely, please.
Can you make it work now?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Over the past several months, city staff has been working on a wireless network system as a way to provide a more cost-effective way of addressing our computer network shortcomings and provide growth capacity for our system. The system in question would be what is known as a mesh system, similar in design to the networks used in Escalon, Patterson, and Ripon. Albeit though ours will run at 300 megabits per second as opposed to 54, which those existing systems run at. So ours will be considerably faster than what those other cities are running at. This system will allow the city to interconnect all of its various satellite locations and create uniform high-speed connections to all its locations. It will be the backbone for the camera systems that we have installed and we plan to install. And make them accessible to department managers, law enforcement as a tool to reduce and solve crimes. The wireless network will fix recurring connectivity issues at our remote sites, which cause downtime and frustration for city staff. It will provide for mobile field devices to have access to the system, primarily for public works and the police department. It will allow remote staff to access city systems, for instance, shared drives, financial software, and have their data stored and backed up on City Hall servers. It will improve the overall security of the city's network and make it easier to manage. Only one bid from Delta Wireless was submitted for this project, although RFPs were sent out to several local businesses and the building exchanges. The city information technology consultant has reviewed the bid and found it to be in proper order and believes that Delta Wireless is a reputable bidder. In conclusion, the wireless mesh system will remedy current computer network shortcomings, provide the city with a wireless system that is more robust than those of neighboring cities, allow for future growth. It will be the backbone for our camera systems and make them accessible to department managers and law enforcement. Staff recommends that the council adopt Resolution 2011 next to number, awarding the bid for wireless mesh system to Delta Wireless for an amount not to exceed $73,391.10. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Mike?
Michael?
I have a display, obviously, of kind of just a rough how the network would balance.
What's the funding source for
That
this?
was my
Funding source, as you can see in your staff report, falls under 4 different categories. Water provides wireless mesh connectivity to our infield operators as well as our well sites, as well as our department. So water will account for 40% of the cost. Sewer will account for 40% of the cost, as will be. If you look at the map, we'll also be tying our wastewater treatment facility back into our city system. It's a standalone system right now. He has spotty at best coverage in terms of internet connection, so he'll tie into our existing system, as well as it'll allow our sewer people in the fields to do a lot. So they'll be covering 40% of the cost, and then police and government buildings will be covering 20% of the cost. So your general fund expense is just under $15,000. The remaining will come out of your 2 enterprise funds.
And that general fund expense again comes out of?
Well, it'll come out, right now it's an unbudgeted item. We believe that we have at minimum that number of cost savings this year, just in budgetary items that maybe we were able to save. So we don't think we're going to have to touch general fund reserve. We'll be using it through cost savings built into this year's budget.
Michael, question. I'm really in favor of this system. The one concern I have is the quality of the system, and that it's going to be a quality system, that it's going to give us what we want, and that it's going to have some life out there that for extended life. I mean, in years to come, 3 or 4 years with system will still be adequate to cover.
We're looking at about a 10-year minimum lifespan. RT Professional estimates 10 to 15 years. This is the newest generation, the newest speed. Like I mentioned, the other cities are still operating at 5,400 megabits per second. We're going to go to the 300, which is quite a bit faster. Part of the reason that we require that speed is because at the police department's request, we are installing very high quality cameras, 8 megapixel cameras, to really zoom in, and we want to get beyond just the grainy images that you typically see and be able to see faces.
Yeah. Waste of time if you get them. It's just nothing.
So high quality cameras, but also requiring then a faster system to support that.
And what is the limitation as far as the number of cameras you could put on one system?
That's probably going to vary, but the advantage to this system is it's fully expandable. So if we start reaching our capacity, we add another radio,
Okay.
and they just keep jumping on.
Okay.
So does it give us the ability, Chief, or either one, that the officers can view from their cars on their laptops?
I talked to Colin specifically about that today, provided that our other law enforcement partners sign off on that, obviously because we have all those issues with CLUTs and everything else, and we would be adding a connection. Provided everybody else signs off on that, yes. Obviously, we wouldn't want them using it when they were driving, but say they're parked somewhere, or they observe. One of the instances we talked about was, say they kind of drive by, they observe something, they could potentially pull around the corner out of the view of those people and kind of monitor what's going on there.
Yeah. We'll have that. We'll be able to do that.
Correct. Again, provided that everybody else signs off. That we may have to jump some hoops to be able to do that, but
I was
yes.
going to say, is there any anticipated issues or problems getting everybody to? I think it'd be.
He didn't think so. It's just kind of one of those things. Every time we deal with, DOJ, everybody else. Obviously we have all these things in the cars that we just got to run it by everybody and get them to sign
I think
off.
it'd be a great valuable tool if the guys are out and about, or even if they're in the office doing reports, doing whatever they're doing, that they'd have access to the screen, even if they could flip to see what's going on at the plaza, for instance.
Well, obviously, one of the plans that we have also talked about is putting up some large screen monitors in the police department and potentially City Hall, so that those would be there for all of staff to kind of be in view all day long. Now, that's only going to work when somebody's at City Hall or going through the PD or at PD. So, the middle of the night, we're not, the one thing we want to make sure clear is we're not going to have somebody sitting in front of these things 24/7.
Right, exactly.
These are, unfortunately, this is more reactive, but the idea is to hopefully put these out there, prevent, people will see those, prevent it, and when something does happen, we'll be able to go back and get the video from. There's been several instances where we could have used this technology.
Is this anything similar to what Ripon has?
Very similar, although I got to be honest, according to Cullen, these will be higher quality cameras than most of what Ripon is operating and will be a faster network. Now, we won't be as large scale as Ripon. Obviously, Ripon has many more connections and many more cameras, but
a lot more money.
Yeah.
But this will be the backbone, so that way future development comes in, we could potentially have them add cameras, add on to the system, and put major intersections and those types of things. Quick point of clarification. With the in-car camera viewing system, there will necessarily be upgrades that are this system right here won't get you there because you got to buy antennas for the car and a few other things. So there will be some necessary additional costs that come through at the time that we're ready to move forward, and those costs deal with the vehicle itself and getting the vehicles and those antennas ready, as opposed to just this basic. This is the backbone, the foundation of the system.
And the computers are going to have to be upgraded too.
That very well could be. We'll have those are some very good points.
we've been budgeting for a couple of those every year, though. So.
Any idea what that'll cost?
I don't at this point in time.
The new cameras we're putting in are supposed to be capable of covering this in-car video. It's just the firewall that we currently have, which is through the sheriff's department. In the near future, we're going to be looking at, or I'm going to be proposing that we move away from the firewall of the sheriff's department and getting our own firewall to stop these type of issues from when they come up, that we have to jump through the hoops to get basically the sheriff's department to say, yes, you can travel through our T111 line or whatever it is to view your video. So it'll be money in the future, but it's something that I believe is needed.
Well, going along with that though, if we do that, because CLETS comes through their firewall too, will we have to go with a direct CLETS?
No, that's not how it was explained to me. The CLETS would still come with the new Viper CAD, but we could do our IT and our internet through a different firewall, because our internet runs through their firewall along with CLETS. So I was told it could be separate. I am not an IT person by any means, but that was how it was explained to me.
And council also, we're exploring how to expand this. for an estimated cost, I'm going to ballpark it around $2,500, $2,500 to $3,000. You could put a wireless camera at each intersection on Main Street, and then tie into this system. So that way you have cameras at the plaza, and then you have cameras at Fresno in Maine, Merced in Maine, Tulare in Maine. Now, understand, and I know the chief can expand upon this, a lot of our major incidences that have occurred over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years kind of tie back to an incident that occurred on Main Street. And so by having those cameras on Main Street, it may have helped our law enforcement get a better understanding of what the confrontation and how that occurred that led to something that maybe occurred off-site or out of the downtown area. And so, and some of those were, you heard about a shooting and a few other things. So, that may have helped us get a better view of the vehicle, to understand how that confrontation originated. So it'd be an investigation tool that will allow them to get this, because sometimes, the people that are participating in the confrontation are uncooperative.
Yeah.
Figures.
I can't imagine why.
So anyways,
well,
I just wanted to add that.
I just have to say that I'm really excited about this system. I just don't want us to not get a quality system. I want it to be a quality system, because if it's not a quality system, we're going to be sorry in the end.
Well, the beauty of this system is that it is fully expandable. We do have the new cameras that we are piggybacking onto this system, but we will be incorporating all our old cameras. So we do have some older ones that aren't as good quality, but at least we won't have to get rid of those. Those will be incorporated for the time being. When we have money, obviously, to replace all of those and get something better, we will. But that'll include cameras, at the teen center and at the courtyard that are in existence now.
As well as the wastewater treatment facility. And those, you've heard a lot about it, and I'm sure the supervisor can talk about it, is, theft of copper, wire, farming activities. We have some items throughout various locations, remote locations within our community that we would like to guard a little bit better. Heck, our water source. I mean, we really want to protect our water source from, vandalism. If somebody got in and shut off a generator and started ripping out copper wire and all that, we're probably seeing 15 or 20 grand just on that. So,
what kind is the first year maintenance built into this?
Actually, I believe, yes, it is, through our contract with Delta Wireless.
Do we have any idea what they're going to charge for maintenance?
You know what?
55?
I'd have to go back and refer to the quote.
I don't remember seeing it, but maybe I missed it.
In talking to Cullen, he feels that there'll be very little maintenance for them after that. He feels that he'll be able to maintain the system as he's doing in the Escalon and Patterson now. In fact, they have stood behind their product in Patterson. They had an install problem. A connector got wet, shorted something out. They came out within a few days and installed a new radio, put a brand new radio in. So and that system was already a year and a half old or so. So they were out of their maintenance.
I'm of the opinion this system will pay for itself.
Well, it's not, obviously it's not cheap, but we are looking at a 10 to 15 year lifespan is what we're estimating.
Yeah. But so often there's things that occur in the city and there's no record of it. Absolutely none.
Well, and hopefully it serves as a deterrent as well.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
In Delta Wireless's quote.
Yes, sir.
I see support maintenance, Aruba Care support, 1-year warranty, and then 4 lines down, I see it again with 2 separate amounts. Do we have any idea?
Yeah, I think that's because we have a couple different radios. We're buying some multiple band and then some single band radios, I think is what that is. I think that's why there's a difference in the support, I believe.
Well, we don't want them double dipping on us.
I think even the quantity's different if you look at it that
Well,
way.
I think there's about 7 radios, right?
Yeah, you have the 2 at 4,000.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
The 5 at 2,000.
Any other questions of Mike? Bob, you have a lot of wants. You want to make a motion?
Well, this city is going to realize something they've not realized. There's a lot more security. Even if a camera's up there and it's not working, there's security because people think that works. So what I'm saying is, I'm going to make the motion. I so move that we adopt Resolution 2011, next number, awarding bid for a wireless point to multi-point mesh system to Delta Wireless for amount not to exceed $73,391.10.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mikey. Okay, we'll go to item 11, items from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor Jim DeMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. I don't have very much tonight, just a few things briefly, some of the things I've touched on in the past. As far as the healthcare task force, which is an item kind of dear to me, we will be meeting on April 28th in Gustine. I signed off on the packets today, and they should be mailed out tomorrow. We have formed a subcommittee of the task force trying to apply for a grant from Sierra Health for $25,000. We've had one meeting already. We're going to have another one this week, and then try and send in that application to fund our outreach programs, health and nutrition, things that we're trying to do. So we think it's a good fit. The way we read the grant, we should qualify for it. It is competitive, so we're putting together the best proposal we can. And then, of course, the Biggest Loser contest scheduled here in Newman at the West Side Theater on August 18th. And in the packets, we are asking people to start putting together their teams. So as always, Newman has always had a team, Patterson and Gustine, and then in fact, if I recall right, the Newman Pros Landing School District actually won last year. So
they cheated.
Well, the year before it was Gustine, and
they cheated.
Well, here's the chance to show them all up.
We don't cheat.
We don't cheat, though.
No. Well, you just have to go on a starvation diet. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, we're off for our third round. We have our speakers, I think, pretty well confirmed, and the luncheon be provided by Blues Cafe and Patterson, and then we're putting it together now. There's a lot of work in putting this thing together, and I don't have the county staff that I used to, so it's we're making more of an effort here between myself and Sally to put this thing on, and the task force has to do a few more things on its own because Keith Boggs has moved to General Services. Stephanie has been transferred to the Alliance, so it's. But we'll get it done. We know what we need to do, and we'll have it done on time. As far as the EDAC meeting, which is scheduled for April 21st at 6 o'clock, we did receive word that Newman had something they wanted to submit, and perhaps an update to the SEDS document. The SEDS document is made to be updated. You can remove everything from Newman and replace the whole thing, or a page at a time, or whatever project that you're working on to try and apply for the federal grant. We can do that really quite easily. As long as you have a project that will create jobs, that's the criteria for the feds. So anyway, 21st is our next meeting. And we only meet 4 times a year, so I encourage you to come. And I think we've probably dodged the bullet this year on the Orostimba Creek flood problems. We've had a couple of times it was pretty close. As we get out of the spring now and into the early summer, I don't think we're going to have any more problems. So we made it this year, but still nothing's really been done on that project in quite a while. Except we're spending a lot of money and created a jobs program for the Army Corps of Engineers. So, yeah, we made it through another year without any flooding. Okay, that's all I have tonight. There's not very much tonight, but if you have any questions, I'd answer them.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Items from the city manager. Wow, the longest tenured city manager, Stanislaus County at this point.
Rich Homer and Chuck DeShane still.
Yeah, but Chuck's out, and Rich is.
Don't jinx me. Don't jinx me.
We haven't met yet.
I have my performance review today. Don't jinx me. Mayor, I just one item tonight I'd like to discuss with the council. We did receive a letter from the Newman Chamber of Commerce, and I believe we passed that out to you. So we'd like to have that conversation with respect to the time frame for the grand opening event. And also, for planning purposes, we need to probably discuss a budget for this grand opening event. So, as I mentioned earlier, you have about $1,100 right now in community promotions. And part of this budget that you state and set for us will determine on how much we can do there. So I'd like to just go ahead and have that event, have that conversation with you. I guess maybe the first item of conversation should be the request by the Newman Chamber. I know the president is here. I'd invite her up, Miss Vicki Lucas, who's
Madam President, would you like to take the podium, please?
You just sit there.
She likes to come on up. Come on up, Vicki. She's done a great job of
Madam President, would you like to take the
managing
podium, please?
chamber at this point.
Did we have a date already? 21st.
May.
You can do it. Come on, Vic.
May 21st.
All right.
That's the date.
Hi,
Welcome, Madam President.
welcome Mayor, Council, people, City Manager. In my letter, I had stated that we thought it would be better to have this grand opening from 12 to 4, based on the theater having a function that evening. It starts at 8. And so I think that the 3 to 6 that was proposed and voted on at the last meeting kind of will conflict a little bit with parking for that event at the theater. And also, that event, I believe, is being invited out to do a couple of songs in the plaza. So that's where I came up with the 12 to 4. Or not me, but the chamber.
Any questions or comments to Madam President? I had some conversations with the Madam President, and I concur. I think probably the 12 to 4 is probably a better time. And Ferris Larson from the theater told me that there is a group there that night, and apparently she has or she was going to contact them and see if they would come early. And
Right. But she did mention that they will need time for rehearsal, setup and rehearsal back in the theater.
Right.
So.
Because they'd have to set up outside and then tear down and go reset up back on the inside. So, so with council concurrence, if you do concur, say having 3 to 6, we move to 12 to 4.
Should we change the date?
I think we beat that one up pretty good.
The answer is no.
I think, I don't have any problem with 12 to 4.
Nick?
That's fine.
Bob?
That's fine.
Roberta?
I don't have a problem.
Okay.
He said I forgot the date.
Staff, it's now 12 to 4.
Excellent, excellent. And that is May 21st.
That is May 21st.
We're not changing that date, right?
And I was.
That's Saturday.
Yeah, I was.
Saturday, May 21st.
Saturday, May 21st, 12 to 4.
And I believe the act that night is Honeymoon, is the act at the theater. So.
I guess we're not playing golf.
Yeah, well, I turned down a golfing day. I had an invitation today.
Your typical tea time is about 7:50, so you should have plenty of time.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mayor, just for an update, our Public Works Director, Mr. Garner Randall, then been working with the Chamber, and they've been doing a good job. So the Chamber is going to come out and donate some drinks. Canine Association is going to be out there, I believe, and it's going to help out. So we're really going to make this an informational type, community informational type event, not necessarily going to be any sales going on out there. But what we would like to discuss with you again is budget, and then the potential to maybe charge a small fee for the hamburger or hot dog. And the reason we're looking at that is when you're going to offer free food, you might get a lot of persons coming in from outside our community and maybe trying to
I can make them show their water bill.
get
That's not a bad idea. Show a water bill, you get it for free. That's not a bad idea.
They make it when you go down to get rid of your trash. They ask
That's
you.
true. That's true. So.
No, I don't know about charging for it, or, for the reason that we're having it. I mean, they've stood behind the city while we spent, several years doing that. Charge for hamburgers and hot dogs. I mean, how much?
Well,
how much would we save?
Well, it's not necessarily about getting the money. It's about just making sure people don't come up and start hoarding everything, and it kind of expands it out and making sure. So what we're really talking about is for a hot dog, soda, chips, cookie, like $2. For a hamburger, chips, soda, cookie, $3. So part of the thought process that went into this was, one, making sure that our restaurant owners don't get upset because we're giving away food when they're trying to sell food. Two, trying to make sure that maybe people from Catfish Ranch or Farm or whatever it's called out there, Riverbend, they don't all just influx into our community and start hoarding the food, because we're going to set a budget now, and that budget's going to really dictate how many people you can help out in terms of providing meals to. So, once the food's gone, it's going to be gone. I mean, I don't anticipate we're going to have an open-ended, open bar, and we're just going to continue to feed food until 4 hours worth. I mean, that might get pretty costly. You might get half a Patterson here.
I think that's a good idea to charge a low amount for food.
Just a very nominal one to try to just help control those types of things. So,
What are we talking about as far as food, Michael?
hamburger, chip, soda, cookie.
So
or hot dog, chip, soda, cookie.
I would think almost what you're suggesting, and I'm not opposed to it, is what you're going to charge. You're going to break even.
Yeah, it's not about making money. It's just about helping.
I have nothing wrong with it. I'm thinking in terms of maybe the money that we do have could be spent in some other way. As far as I don't know, let your mind go wherever it wants to.
Well, for me, for adults, I would say yes, but I think children should, if there's children there, because if you got a family of 7 or 8, that's just like going out any other time. That's $21, and that may not seem like a lot, but for some of the families in Newman, that's.
And you're right, Councilman. It's still money that people are going to have to expend, but it's cost-wise, it's still a good deal for people. I mean, a hot dog and soda and chips and a cookie for $2 is still a good deal for someone. You don't get those deals at Little League. You don't get those deals downtown. Heck, Costco, the hot dogs are $1.50. So
with the drink.
With the drink. So we got a drink on this and chips and cookies. So
okay, you're going to do a hot dog and a drink. Those are the kind of hot dogs you should have.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk budget now. So.
Well, let's get the concurrence from council on the cost proposal. Is that something that we want to do?
I think a nominal fee.
Nominal fee is fine.
Right. The idea is not to keep people from getting it, but obviously control how many are going out. So, okay, so we'll move forward with that.
Everybody okay with that?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
You were saying 2 or 3. I would prefer
2 for the hot dog, 3 for the hamburger.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
2 for a hot dog meal, 3 for a hamburger meal.
But I agree, a drink and potato chips.
Drink, potato chips, a cookie, or dessert go with it. And so you get a can of soda or water. You get the hot dog, you get your chips, and you get your treat.
That's a good hamburger now.
It's a good hamburger. Cooked by the mayor himself.
Try it.
I heard you burn hamburgers.
Depends how much I've had through.
Nick's an excellent barbecue.
I know that.
So with that, okay, so we knocked out 2 items. Third item is overall budget.
Good night, Kent.
What else are we talking about?
Well, there was discussions of. Garner, why don't you come on up and you have the discussion? decorations, balloons. I mean, what do we want to do
It's gonna
there?
cost us an arm and a leg if he gets involved in this.
I have short arms and legs. Some of the discussions we've had with the chamber and some other folks would be, what we'd be looking at is probably like a banner, possibly some balloons, and ballparking some of that. You're talking $75 for a banner. Balloons, I wouldn't know what that would cost, but you budget $100, $150 in that, and then the rest of the cost is going to be in your food. So trying to rough that out as far as how many hot dogs and hamburgers do we buy. The Chamber of Commerce did allocate $500 towards drinks to help out defray some of the costs, and I just recently heard from the police department that they're going to buy the chips to provide for that. So then the costs we're limited to would be the cookies and the hot dogs and hamburgers. So the rest of the funds that you'd be looking at, if there's $1,100 in community promotions, you could budget about $800 to $900 for the rest of your foods. And so you'd be looking at hot dogs and the condiments to go with that, and the serving plates. You have to have some type of a boat or plates for that.
I'm just curious, just in terms of making it easier and doing like the all-American thing. What would be wrong just going with hot dogs? Just hot dogs.
We could.
Because some of us don't like hot dogs.
Well, then you go to the restaurant and eat. Make everybody happy. I got thinking because with hamburgers, then you gotta have all the condiments. Huh?
So you do two for a hot dog.
Yeah, chili and mustard and all that stuff.
Relish,
Chili.
onions.
Go ahead, Garner, continue. That didn't go anywhere.
That didn't go anywhere.
No.
So the condiments you'd be looking at would be.
Excuse me? Madam President?
I agree with you.
Great minds think alike.
I like just hot dogs.
And then you're not into the lettuce, the tomato, the onion, the hamburger.
I like lettuce and tomato on my hot dog.
Excuse me?
Provided there's enough budget, there's those things we can look at.
Well,
If we haven't spent all the money, we can look at onions and things
Just
like
for
that.
instance, my office, we had an open house this last weekend at Castle, and I think we did 500 hot dogs, and I'm not sure how many people showed up, but I think we had like 100 hot dogs left over. I don't know. I mean, we had people all day long. We were out there for almost 5 hours. I don't know what kind of crowd we would draw for this. I'm hoping it's a good, but I think we could do good hot dogs.
Hell yes. I mean, heck yes.
And I do have a correction. It's a canine association that's helping with the chips, not the police
Okay,
department.
so the Canine Association is going to do the chips. Chamber's going to do the drinks, water and sodas. No alcohol.
No alcohol.
No.
Unless you walk downtown.
There are other expenses we would have. There would be some booths that we're going to set up, community type booths. One for the city that would kind of demonstrate, or some displays on the plaza and information on that. Then I believe K9, if they so choose, can have a booth. So we're looking at community booths. The Rotary I'm going to go ask them if they'd be willing to sponsor cookies for the event. And so we're looking at some community booths, or maybe a little more incidental expenses.
Have we talked to any of our local businesses about donating hot dogs and hot dog buns?
I have not yet. That is an option that we can consider. We're kind of trying to wrestle our hands around how big of an event are we looking at and where our expenses are going to be, and then that's an opportunity we can look at that.
I know in the past for a lot of functions, Nob Hill's been pretty good, but Diamond Food has been real good about, and they have a fresh bakery with buns and things.
Perhaps an option is if we do get some of those more companies are able to help sponsor this event, then the price goes to $1. If we find that we're staying within budget and we're doing really good, and then that defrays that cost down to $1 for a meal.
I mean, even if we got them, if we were able to get, a couple hundred hot dogs donated, and we only had to buy a couple hundred. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Mayor, if I may, again, we have 1,100 in our community promotion. If I may make a recommendation, we go ahead and allocate 1,000, but tell staff, as staff, we'll be very conservative with our funds. We're not going out to spend the full 1,000 if we don't need to, but if you give us at least a leeway to go up to that amount, we'll make sure we put put on a first-class event for you and for this community, and use as many partners as we can, including the Chamber, the Canine Association, any businesses that we'd like to go in there, and we'll make sure that we put on a first-class event for the community to celebrate the opening of our our plaza.
And I think the whole idea is to draw people to the plaza. I think the bonus is giving them a hot dog, chips, and a
Right.
soda. You know, I mean, the idea is we want people to come down and to see the plaza and to enjoy it, have a nice time out there, and then maybe they'll go to some of the businesses. And so I think if we could do just hot dog, I think no, it's easier on staff. You know, and heck, I'll barbecue. I don't care. I can do hot dogs up, burn them.
I think we had a volunteer from Nick as well on the barbecue.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Do we have,
Only if we have hamburgers too.
Well, we could have a sampler. You know.
Michael, do we have any more movie nights scheduled prior to the new budget?
Yeah, we have a movie night coming up May 7th.
May 7th, yeah.
Doesn't that come out of the same fund?
No, we got a grant for that.
Oh, okay.
We got a grant for movie night.
And we have
So
several
that's
sponsors
covered.
as well.
Yeah, and we have some sponsors with sponsorship on that as well. So again, with the permission of council, again, I would make the recommendation we allocate 1,000. But working with staff, we will be very diligent in being conservative with that $1,000 we get, put it on a first class event.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I just think, you know, we're not serving necessarily lunch or dinner. It's a snack. So we do hot dogs and
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers.
Oh, okay.
Hamburgers.
You guys want to do both?
Yeah.
No, we
We got
can't take a
$1,000
vote.
to spend.
No,
No, he said he wanted to do both.
Hot dogs and hamburgers.
No kidding.
He'll be good.
We got a lot of them.
Mayor, we can work it with both. We'll get it
Okay.
done.
All right. I'm just trying to be frugal.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Not cheap, frugal.
We'll work all our
All right,
partners to
all
make
right.
sure that we get plenty of donations on that.
I'll still help. Still cook.
Okay. You do the hot dogs, and Nick will do the burgers.
I got a Traeger.
I'll still eat.
You ever had hot dog numbers on a Traeger?
No.
Mayor, thank you for that direction, and that's all that I had to report tonight.
Are you trying to move us along?
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Michael. And we're looking forward to an outstanding day. So we'll go to staff. Lou.
Buckets dry, Lou.
Evening, Mayor and Council members. We'll be real brief here. Just want to give you an update on Springbrook software. Last Saturday, we did our final data pull from our current software and sent that off to them. They're working on the conversion this week. Next week, we will be live on Springbrook for our utility billing. This coming 25th and 26th, the residents will be receiving their new utility bill, which you can go to our website and view copies of it. It also has descriptions on how to read your new bill. One thing I just want to make mention is that everybody's utility accounts will be changing, their account numbers. So make sure if you're doing all your online bill paying that you update your bank with that new account number. The reason we're doing that is for security reasons. We're not using the first three letters of your business or your last name, so for security. Other than that, conversion's going really well. This is the third time we've exported data for them to work with, and according to them, they think they've got all the kinks out of it, and it should go pretty smoothly. Once we complete this, the next phase is doing our accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, which we've started exporting some of the data for that, beginning to prepare. And then towards the end of the year, we'll look at implementing the online features of our utility billing. We didn't want to dump too much on our staff at one point, because we know we're going to get a lot of calls from our residents when that gets set up. That's it.
Thanks, Lou. Chief?
Good evening again. Well, for those of you that came out to the Newman Canine Association crab feed last Saturday, it was a great event. I want to say approximately 500 people were there that got served. Big event, bigger than what I believe they planned on. We set up some extra tables, but we made it work. It was a long night. And the staff that volunteered their time from Public Works and City Hall, it was great. It was great to see everybody working together. Safety Fair this Saturday, April 16th, and we are going to beat you to your community barbecue. The police department, being sponsored by the Canine Association, again, is going to throw a community barbecue at the Safety Fair. So we're not going to charge. It's going to be free. sorry, guys. But it's going to be until it runs out. And along with the safety fair, they're going to have a shred day by State Farm. Come out and shred all your tax documents after you pay the government all your money. You can come throw it in a shredder for free. Canaan Association will be doing some demos. Possibly our bike officer will be down there doing a little bit of bike riding and teaching kids how to ride bikes, and we're just going to have a good time. So Sherman Park, 12 to 4. Come out and enjoy yourself. Last thing I have is the community. I heard that word a lot tonight. Recently, I got to work with Garner and some of his staff doing a little construction project for the community, and man, the way you guys got a great staff. Your workers down there, been working with them on a couple projects with baseball, and they do an amazing job. I've been in baseball and sports for a long time with my kids, and the events that Newman put on with the baseball parade and everything that went on Saturday, top notch. I've never seen anything like it. Been in Modesto for years, and I've never seen an opening ceremony. I've never seen the grass cut.
See what you've been missing? I told you all this years ago.
Years ago, I didn't listen. I was young and dumb then, but I'm older and wiser now.
Oh, okay.
And it was they did some dedications at opening ceremonies to some family members that were lost, to kids playing baseball. Touching. I mean, it was tear-jerking. The community support, the amount of people that came out to it, the way the fields looked. I mean, it's a great community, and it's a great pleasure to live here and be the police chief here. So I'd like to thank you again for hiring me. Thank you. So that's all I have.
Chief, your raise is in order.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
We've gone over this a couple of times. JJ insists on putting out signs, 10-minute parking.
Yeah.
And I think he's hard-headed or something, because really, if everybody started putting out parking signs for 10 minutes only, we'd have signs all over the place. So
is that still going on?
Yeah.
Well, apparently when they had the theater was going the other night, he put them out, and then he took them down.
Okay. So that was something that I gave special permission while the plaza was down, while the parking was not there.
Yeah.
For when they had events, he could put up signs. I told him there would be absolutely no enforcement on it. There's certain signs that he could put up just to get basically at will. And it was only while the plaza was shut down.
I think, and part of the issue that I had with it is fixing them to our trees.
He was not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, and that is not supposed to be going on. I'll go have a talk with him.
Yeah, he's nailing them to our trees, and I just don't think that's...
I'll make sure I have a talk with him. Okay. Make sure that stops.
I had one other question.
Sure.
We have a merchant downtown, Fresno and Maine, that likes to put out this smelly stuff on the sidewalk. I don't know if you've had an occasion to walk by there.
I have not seen it on the sidewalk. No, I've smelled it coming from inside the building, but I have not seen anything being placed out on the sidewalk.
It reeks so bad out there. I don't know if there's an ordinance or anything, but I tell you one thing: if you go into a restaurant and it's following you all the way into the restaurant, it's just.
It's supposed to heal you.
I'm not aware of a smell ordinance. I mean, we can.
Well, you know what?
I don't know. We get several complaints about that merchant. I don't know what the answer is, honestly, to tell you.
We create an ordinance.
If you want a smell ordinance, staff can look into creating a smell ordinance.
No, and I have to commend him. He's out there this last weekend, and he's taken off all the gum on the sidewalk. They had 2 or 3 people out there scraping off gum. So, I mean, there's some good there, but it's pretty strong.
I agree.
And you say it's coming from inside.
Every time that I walk by, it's coming.
Well,
There's been nothing
if we
else
have those cameras up there, you're going to see it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you. I'm sorry to give you a hard time, Chief.
Chief Richards.
Yes, sir.
Across from the flange, those 2 houses, that property is for sale there, that they got all the furniture on the porch, they got all the weeds, they got trash around to the side. Has Jessica looked at that?
Yes, that is. There's 3 properties. They're in works. There's a lot of properties I've been here, and there's a lot of property. I think she has over 25 on her list that would come next time. Now, some of those will probably be abated, but it's that time of season where we went out and the weeds started catching our attention. So where it fell in the time frame of we had to send the letters 3 weeks in advance. It hasn't got to that point yet. It should come within the next council meeting. You should see some of these properties start filtering.
Some of it's like, I mean, it's like they're abandoning it and just leaving all their trash outside the house.
They are, and the property owner that just purchased the property is really willing to. They still have to evict some of the property, some of the tenants from there, so he can clean up the property, and he's willing to do so. It's just a matter of the tenants haven't left yet.
What about the one at Amy Drive where the train was built outside over a year ago?
The train?
It's still a mess. It was supposedly it was a train that was going to go to a.
That's been a mess for 35 years.
Yes, it has. He's well versed at our.
Why isn't something done about it?
It has been done, and it's been done several times to him. It's just he's well versed at the game, and he knows that he'll clean it up, and then it'll become a mess. We'll send him letters. He'll clean it up.
I've never seen it cleaned up.
It by all means has been cleaned up. We're very well of the property, well aware, and it has been dealt with several times, but he just continues to have a mess.
It's due again.
It's probably, yeah, you're probably right, and I believe it has been hit again.
Thanks,
Any
Gene.
others?
Nope.
No.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie? Gardner? All right. Well, with that, we'll go to council members. Start at the other end. Don?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Roberta?
I don't have anything.
Nick?
Nothing.
Bob? No. Well, I'd just like to, again, thank Chief Souza and Newman Fire Department for the beautiful jackets that they presented to the council, the Centennial jackets that mine's hanging on my chair at home. I forgot to bring. But I think a couple of you have them. And so I'd just like to thank the chief and the fire department personnel for getting us all those jackets. They're great jackets, and I've worn mine quite a few times and just forgot it tonight. So thanks to the fire department for that. And with that, we'll adjourn to closed session, public hearing, our public employee personnel evaluation, city manager, government code 54957.6.